Hi everyone, thank you for having me and hosting this session on sponsorship today. I'm going to start with a couple of quotations. Sponsorship is a huge passion of mine and I like to go into the details, and we'll see some of that here. So here's a quote from the CMO of MasterCard. As a brand, the challenge now is how you navigate this field in the best possible way, not through political correctness, but through authenticity. Brands now, they can't put their logo on something and walk away. They have to deliver something with purpose, drive effective brand engagement, and acquire data and customers. I've been at Volleyball World and FIVB now for a year. I've been using that time to soak in the amazing proposition we have within the sport. And I think we're best placed to serve the needs of modern day brands. And we'll come on to that now. So what's the challenge for sponsorship? This is a quote from a leader in the sports industry. They say, brands cannot just purchase a partnership to reap the values of sponsorship. They must ensure their brand and creative relevance for them to be playing in that sport. The approach should start with a brand defining its role, centering this on a creative idea or purpose, and amplifying that across the many touch points the sport can offer. We all probably know, for me as an initial football fan in the north of England, when I saw John Barnes was my hero, he had candy on his shirt. That created an emotional connection between me and the sport. But you can see now modern day sponsorships mean more than just branding. And we'll come on to why we think volleyball is well placed. What are the general considerations with sponsorship? All sports are competing for eyeballs and attention, not just sport. Netflix, Amazon, streaming platforms, they're all capturing people's time. So we, with volleyball, we need to make the most of the time that we have with these fans and grab their attention and allow sponsors to play a role in that story. The market is saturated, and there's a real need to create distinction and value amongst the noise. And when you think about volleyball specifically, we have to demonstrate value versus other sports. Football, basketball, tennis, we have to admit that commercially on the sponsorship side, they are ahead of us, and we need to find a way to build that long-term to create value. And a lot of the time, I've been here for a year. We've done category-first propositions in the sport in volleyball in the last year, in the telco category and technology. We're doing this for the first time in many cases. We need to create a real business case behind it. And the most important thing, Fabio and Yuchao were talking about this amazing spectacle we had in Paris. How do we harness that for the long-term value of the sport? The great thing is, and some of them are here, is we already work with some magnificent partners. The likes of Mikasa, Mizuno, Gerflor, Seno, and Ganton. And they all have their own place, their own authentic place to be in the sports. People know them, people know the value that they're bringing to volleyball, from the fans to the players. And that's given us a very solid foundation to build from. This is a slide from one of my sales decks when we speak to brands for the first time. We have 800 million fans. It's an astounding number. And some of the CMOs that I speak to, they almost fall off their chair. Like, how is that possible, right? Particularly people from the UK, where volleyball might not be as big as in other countries. But 800 million fans alone is not enough to drive value for sponsors. What's the opportunity? What is volleyball's unique proposition commercially? We have an amazing growth story. We've seen that. We've spoken to lots of federations during Congress. Volleyball is growing, player base, fan base. There is a story there that is unique to any other sports in the world. The viewership, the VNL alone delivered more than 2 billion cumulative views in broadcast this year. That's a 42% increase just on the VNL. We are a leading advocate for gender equality, and this is a central focus of our commercial proposition when we speak to brands like MasterCard. I had the fortunate opportunity to host a number of CEOs and CMOs in Paris and during the VNL and the Beach Pro Tour this year. They've got to see the event. They've got to come and experience volleyball for what it is. When they get it, When they come and see it, they really get to understand the commercial value that it offers. We have an award-winning digital engagement proposition. For the second year running, we're the most engaged international federation in the world on a post-by-post basis. Brands are navigating their media spend towards digital, and we need to find a way to solve their problems as a federation and as a sport. And linked to that, there are inspiring athlete, team, and competition narratives that run throughout volleyball and beach volleyball every year, from grassroots all the way through to the elite side of the game. These all have commercial value. This is a story that has really struck a chord with particularly the brands that you pitch in the US. The most attended women's sport event in the world, 92,000 fans, Nebraska versus Omaha. That captures a zeitgeist that not other sports can really do, and that's a college game. How do we harness this, and how do we build value for the sponsors that want to speak to the people in the arena, that are watching online and on broadcast? One big thing for me, and my team probably think I'm a bit crazy because I go a bit too far into this, but I really need to understand the audience that we speak to. What's the gender split? What's the average age? What do they care about? I mean, I went to Antalya in the VNL for the first time this year, and I saw families there. I saw the level of interaction with the fan base, and I thought, I know the brands that need to live here. It was quite clear. And I see huge potential there with the VNL specifically. What are their interests? What are their purchasing habits? What do they want to buy? What car do they care about? What's the participation like at grassroots level? We need to know the answers to all of these questions. At Volleyball World, we're very data-focused, so we use an audience targeting platform called GWI. It tells us everything we need to know about volleyball fans. They're 44% more likely to see the sponsor as an integral part of the sport that they exist in. They're 38% more likely to be interested in entrepreneurship. And if you go directly into a sector, they're 49% more likely to be interested in adventure and extreme sports. They're going to purchase a hybrid vehicle over a petrol one. And here's a free lead for everyone. Toyota is a brand that volleyball fans are going to like, so let's speak to them. This is all based on interviews with volleyball fans. To create value and to create trust with brands, I say to my team, we have to act like an agency. We have to get under the skin of the brands that we're speaking to, and we have to be targeted to find best fit brands with the sectors. Second point is education. Before this job, I was working in the gaming and esports industry. Part of what we were doing was educating people on something that was brand new, and also educating them on what the commercial proposition was. With volleyball, everyone knows what volleyball is. We just need to educate them on what the commercial potential is of the sport. And we've got to be bold. We've got to do things for the first time. We have to be. There needs to be an overarching narrative as to why the brand exists in the sport. What in-game moments can they own? Monster Block, Ace. We see how the fans react to these moments. We need to find a credible way for brands to support them. Storytelling, activation, and of course we need to establish how we measure the success of those partnerships. This year, we signed a landmark deal for the federation and for the sport. It was in the betting category. We didn't have a lot of time to make it happen, and it required us to do a number of things for the first time. The big one, which you can see on the left here, is we put a digital virtual overlay onto the court. So I need to knock on Finn's door and say, Finn, can we put the logo on here? He says yes. Then we need to find a provider. Then we need to get the buy-in of the federation and the wider stakeholders. But it's created immense value for the sport moving forward. And these are the kind of brands that we have worked with and other stakeholders have worked with in the past. Vodafone was another first for us as a federation. It allowed us to tell a technology story that had never been done before, how 5G can enhance the broadcast in the VNL in Antalya, and it leveraged the success of the ongoing partnership between the TVF and Vodafone. So Vodafone owned the narrative around the spike speed, the serve speed, and the challenge system. It was an amazing B2B story that we hope to evolve in the future. Fantasy sport, fan voting mechanisms. Let's use this huge digital social media audience that we have and make them interact with it and let brands own that experience. This stat blows me away. The global digital content creation market size is expected to be worth $90 billion by 2030. How are we as a sport pivoting to serve the needs of the modern day brand? And what ties to this? Impactful content. People want to get behind the curtain of the teams and the players. They want to see what's going on. What is Ran Takahashi doing in his spare time? What story can we tell? How can the brand be integrated into that story? Emotive human interest storytelling is what brands require and expect from their sport. Gender empowerment, we've spoken about. Grassroots engagement. How can brands lead and create genuine social change through the likes of the Volleyball Foundation, through FIVB empowerment? But we have a lot of fun. This is the title sponsor of the VNL in Bangkok this year. Huge levels of fan engagement. And you have to remember, it always comes back to the fans. Create the brand relevance within the sport. Authentically weave the brand into the narrative. Connect with those emotive moments. And create the value-add experiences for fans, players, and the wider community. And to conclude, this is the last slide from our deck. If we can get our fans to do this every game, imagine what we can do for you. Thank you.